And we are back after the greatest 3 days in wrestling and all year, and we are absolutely exhausted.
Exhausted.
And
I
for some
literally
people, this I like that you're sitting a little bit lower because there's a lot of people that. First of all, shout out everybody who came up to us and said how much they enjoy the show and all that. It's always great to hear that. There were some people that came up to me and said, I didn't think you were this tall. And I said, well, the problem is Willie and I are equal height on the show most of the time. So
Yeah.
you don't know, what the height is. But yeah, I'm exhausted. I got some pre-workout. We're gonna fight through.
I got coffee. I just got back. I got picked up in Philly, and I'm in Easton now. So, but yeah, just it's the greatest show in the world. This is the greatest sporting event in the world. But it's also a grind. And if it's a grind for us, it's a grind for the fans. Obviously, a grind for the athletes and coaches. I mean, last night I said, Snyder, where are we having a beer at? He's like, bro, I'm toast. And I got to get up for a 6 a.m. flight.
I know.
And,
I ended
so,
up.
you know what? You know what I want to bring up?
Bring it up.
Is how much of a grind this is. I must have ran into 6, 7 coaches yesterday or over the course of the weekend that were FaceTiming with their kids that were back home. I mean, it's brutal on all fronts. You spend a lot of time away from your family. You're really, really invested in what is like a second family. And, man, it ends with a bang, but
Yeah, and I
hard on you.
I watched it at home all day Thursday, pumped out content, graphics, all that. Woke up at 4 a.m., flew out there for the whole day Friday, had an absolute blast, was there for a bit Saturday, then like 3 o'clock, right after the medal round, hopped on a flight, came home for the finals, and watched it with my son, and we were just hanging out. And then literally from the time finals ended to when I went to sleep, all I was doing was going through Twitter and
Yeah.
info and brackets. And then
Yeah.
I thought we were going to do the show first thing this morning. So I come to the office super early, and you're like, I want to get to Easton first. So I said, okay. So I've just been at the office literally all day, just writing notes all over my brackets, because it's one of those things where it's like you go back. First of all, I go back things we said during the season, predictions and storylines. But also, one of the things that I love watching sporting events at home, one of the hardest things about being at NCAAs and working it is you run into person after person, and it's so great to see. It's great to see wrestlers, coaches, friends, and you just like, it's such a great event to connect with people. Like, I was in Izzy's suite with you for a bit, and, Kennedy Blades and Real Woods were in there. It was awesome hanging out with them for a bit. They're such awesome people. It's like you just start talking to people and you miss some of the action. It's even when you're locked in on the action, like just staring at it, there's so much going on that it's hard to follow. So it's like going back and seeing different things you miss. It's crazy just how much action is in 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, even being a fan there or being working media there, I guarantee you fans get to see more than. I mean, everybody thinks
Definitely.
you're really lucky. You got to, you get a media pass and you're backstage and you can know everything and see everything. Nope, you see more than I do. Every time you put your head down to write a stat or write an article, you're missing something, right? If you want to go catch an interview, you're missing everything else. If you want to go shake hands with somebody, like I was running back and forth from the floor to the suite, and you start talking to people, you miss stuff, and so there's still a lot of stuff I got to go back through and check on. I mean, for instance, like I missed the Dean Peterson call. I heard there was a bad call in that, and there should have been a challenge. But there's so many little stuff like that. I want to go back and watch the Lorenzo Norman Keegan O'Toole match. I mean, I saw the third period because you're watching 8 matches and you catch like, oh, Keegan O'Toole's losing in the third period. So you start watching that, but I missed the first half of it. So there's pros and cons to being working media on the floor, and honestly, half You might be better off working remotely than from working there,
It is
depending on what
100%.
you do.
Yeah, it is a lot easier to like get physical work done when you're not there, but you can't talk to people. You can't. That's where it's like obviously the interviews are 100%. You got to be there, but yeah, even like the one thing that sucked a couple years ago, I think it was when Yanni won, is they do the post match like press conference in the back, so you miss the
Yeah,
start of the next match if you're back there for that. So
yeah,
that's
yeah.
but it's an awesome experience. I ended up on the floor for a bit, which was nice, and got to do some good cool stuff.
Yeah,
So
the suite was good. It was Holly Holm and Izzy. Real Woods was there the whole time. Um, Hulk Hogan's like business partner, one of his business partners was up there, but Hulk Hogan did not come. But then the last 2 days, Spencer was up there, and then Tony Cassiope, and I had a good time talking to Spencer. A lot of different perspective type things with him.
yeah, I didn't see Spencer this way. I think he came in Friday night just after I left. I was on the floor, doing some stuff, and man, I'm still like you said, like going back and watching matches and finding different storylines. And it's like obviously I pay close attention to Penn State. You pay close attention to Nebraska. And, obviously we pay attention to a lot of other stuff too, but it's so funny how many things you can get when you hone in on something. And it's fun to go back and look at, different schools and different stats and All-Americans. And there's so
Well,
much substance.
let's start with the team score and the team race. I'm gonna update it. I had it going into the final rounds. I have an article up and it broke it down. It's pretty comprehensive if you want to see like what is the anatomy of a podium team, what is the anatomy of a top 10 team. Okay, you have X amount of qualifiers and X amount of placers, and this is how many points they earned, and it gives you a pretty nice picture of what it takes to get on the podium. And that bar changes year to year. We saw last year was a little different. It was Penn State way out in front, and then a couple teams, three All Americans. Three All Americans got you a top 4 place last year. I mean, 3 All Americans got you second place for Cornell last year. Not so much this year. I mean, look at the difference. Cornell had 3 All Americans last year and took second. Nebraska had 8 All Americans and 9 in the blood round and were second. That's so every year it changes. That's night and day.
How about the fact that Iowa had 3 finalists?
3 finalists
and they're fourth.
Iowa had 3 finalists and were fourth. Yeah. Iowa scored more points this year and took fourth than Cornell did last year and took second.
It's crazy.
All right, let's start with Penn State. Penn State obviously reset the scoring record after breaking it last year. They do it again this year. And the number of bonus points they put up. Now, they didn't. The funny thing is, they didn't even wrestle perfect. They didn't even come close to perfect. They had that guy that most people pegged for second, injury default out and take sixth. They had Kasich, who was a potential finalist. Levi Haynes, a real solid finalist contender. They didn't wrestle Luke Lillidahl. They didn't wrestle perfect, and they still broke the tournament record.
Well,
it's insane. The wrestleback bonus points, the bonus points in general were incredible. I'd like to add it up. I wonder if Penn State's bonus points, not just bonus points. I bet you Penn State's bonus points were good enough for like 10th.
Well, listen to this, because I was going through it. Apart from Kirk, who injury defaulted out and didn't wrestle on the backside, Penn State went 17-1 on the backside, and they won 6.
That's insane.
17-1. The only match that was lost was Braden Davis, and then he came back and took 5th. All 6 Penn State guys who wrestled back bonused to place.
It's incredible the runs that we've had like the last couple years. Like Penn State on day one went 20-0.
Crazy.
Then they suffered a few losses, but then at that same time when Penn State was suffering a few losses, Nebraska went on a crazy run of like 15-1 or 16-1 or something like that, which was crazy. Pretty much locked them into second. And last year was a different story. Last year, Nebraska went something crazy on day one of like, I don't know, 12-1, and then the second day they started off like 1-8, which they fell out of contention there. And then Penn State goes 20-0, then they lose some, and then they go 17-1 on the backside. Just incredible.
It is, and I was tweeting that. It's like, I don't care what team does it; it's extremely impressive. And I think that from a grit standpoint, like, so 6 of the 7 guys for Penn State who lost on the front side before the finals, 6 of the 7 lost to a lower seed. Braden Davis was the only one who lost to a higher seed when he lost to Lucas Bird. The other 6 out of 7 lost to a lower seed. And, Kirk injury defaulted out because his knees messed up. But the other 6 bounced back. They go 17-1, and they bonus in all their placement matches. That is crazy. Like, why?
Yeah. Well, the seed, we talked about this, I think, after Big Tens, but the seed to placement thing, for teams that have high seeds across the board, there's nowhere to go but down. Mm-hmm. I mean, one stumble and it blows your thing up. But, it's always interesting to see how some of the top guys, how the high seeds react when they lose. It's gutting, right? And to see, I love Luke Lillidahl, and I'm pretty close to his parents, and so to see him come back and wave and like celebrate and show his hands, and I was really happy for Luke that he had some perspective. He wasn't down on himself. He wasn't curling up in a ball. He wrestled back tough and took the next best thing. And he's happy. He's having fun. So
yeah. And by the way, like Lillidahl and Kasich definitely took the worst losses as 1 seeds losing to 8. And even though I say lower seed, like it's still very close. I think 4 out of the 7 guys in the front side were a 2 seed who lost to a 3. Like, very close within that.
Levi and who?
Bartlett lost to Mendez. That's the 2-3. Van Ness and Lovett were the 2-3.
Hamidi, Levi were the 2-3.
Hamidi was the 2-3. Kirk and Wyatt were the 2-3. So a lot of them were like 2-3 matches. I think Braden Davis and Shane Van Ness, I think, were both like one off. Like, Shane was the 3, Lovett was the 2, Braden was the 8, and...
What was that? How about for the Penn State fans, I think like a big sigh of relief when Braden Davis won in the blood round. Because like, okay, now we're going to get this. And I think it was a relief for Stephen Davis. Stephen Davis, Braden's dad, he one time said to me like a few months back, he's like, my kid's reigning Big Ten champ, and he's like the worst kid in the lineup. And
crazy.
So there's a little pressure on him, right? Don't be the one to not get it done. And I wasn't rooting for. I'm not rooting for anybody. Contrary to popular opinion, I don't root for anybody. But I was relieved for Braden Davis that
it's okay. It's okay to root for people. You are absolutely rooting for people.
Who was I rooting for? I didn't root for anybody.
No, you were rooting for people. There were some Huskers you were definitely rooting for.
No, there's a difference between. I was absolutely not rooting for anybody. Not Ridge, not Antrell, not Brock Hardy, not Christopher Minto.
As you rattle them off one by one.
Well, they all had good tournaments. This is the thing with Nebraska, and I play into it because what you're going to believe what you want to believe anyway. But Brian Snyder's like my brother. He's been, we were best men in each other's wedding. He hung out right here for years, and right here where I'm sitting now. I was not rooting against Caleb Henson. I root for my brother to experience success. I shouldn't say I root.
Well, you just did.
I like if he's going to experience success, I'm happy for him. I would like to see him, the fruits of his labor, be enjoyed, but full well knowing that he's working as hard as he is, and the Nebraska kids are working as hard as they are, and so is everybody else. They're not special, right? Caleb Henson's working as hard as he can. Jared Frere is working as hard as he can. So, for that reason, I don't root, but I do enjoy seeing guys get it done. Like, and my heart breaks for guys like Julian Ramirez. So I do have an emotional tie to a lot of things. Anyway, we're getting off topic here, but for Braden Davis, I was happy and relieved for him and his family.
Yeah, I think that's warranted. I think we'll go through the weights and we'll talk about all the weights individually. But yeah, it was awesome. I definitely, when I was trying to, I put out a number of graphics and pieces of content that are really designed to spark conversation, just get more people talking about it. And when I said, will Penn State have 10 AAs this year, there was a lot of negativity towards Braden Davis, a lot. So it's always good when there's negativity towards someone that they excel. And there's a lot of other guys we're going to talk about, that.
All right, let's go through. So Penn State. So we're going through team scores now, right? And team performances. And Penn State probably, they lost a lot of close ones. They lost a lot of 2-3 matchups and things like that. And they didn't max out, and they still broke the freaking scoring record. 10 AAs, only the second time it's ever been done. It's just an incredible, incredible performance. And to think the second place team had 9 qualifiers, 8 of them All-Americans. The other one was a blood round guy. And 8 All-Americans, 3 finalists. Doesn't get it done. Didn't even come close.
It's crazy.
That's the bar that Penn State is. I mean,
Willie, you want to know what's even
117 used to be a champ. 8 AAs and 3 in the finals used to be a team title.
You want to know what's even wilder than that, in my opinion?
Yeah.
Imagine me telling you before NCAAs, making bold predictions. Imagine I said, Willie, I got a crystal ball, and Dean Hamidi and Wyatt Hendrickson are both going to beat returning national champs in the semis and finals, and Oklahoma State's going to have 2 champs and 3 finalists, and they're going to take third.
No, I wouldn't have. No, nope.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So that I think all of them. I think all of them had excellent tournaments. Penn State, Nebraska, Oklahoma State. Penn State didn't max out individually, but new scoring record, phenomenal performance by everybody, especially wrestling back, not hanging their heads and coming back. And 10 AAs, it's only the second time it's ever been done. Nebraska pretty much maxed out. The only thing they didn't get was Lenny Pinto on the podium. So they pretty much maxed out. Oklahoma State didn't max out with guys like Tegan Jamison. He could have scored some more points, but they did get a major hurdle with Hamidi and Wyatt Hendrickson, and even to a lesser extent Troy Spratley. And I say it's Troy Spratley because Troy Spratley, everybody knew he could, but there were 12 guys in that weight class that could, and none of them did except Troy Spratley and Vince Robinson. So in a weight class that had a lot of parity, that's a win getting Spratley to the finals.
You know what was so interesting about this podium pitch, and I put the team scores up here. If you look at the top 5 teams and how happy their fan bases are, It's very rare to me that, Penn State, I know some fans were not happy with some of the matches, and I get it, but when you have 8 of the 10 guys winning their last match at the NCAA tournament, that's incredible. Nebraska had 2 champs, they put 3 straight in the finals. Oklahoma State did the unthinkable with Hamidi and Wyatt. Iowa, they got a national champ in 97 for the first time since 2010. They had 3 finalists. I know they wanted more. I know they wanted Drake to win. And
Well, I think Iowa deserves a little bit of a shout out
100%.
in the sense that they get picked on sometimes by me, but their worst performance is better than everybody else's almost every time. Like, it's better than 95% of the country. Their worst performance is 4th. I mean, they put 3 in the finals. They could have had a couple other spots where they did all right, but overall, this is a model of consistency.
Yeah, and I think like you keep all these for Iowa to keep all these streaks going. Drake is now I think the 35th straight year in a row with a finalist. Kelly Endo and Buchanan too. They got a champ at heavyweight, which was great for them to have success at a non lightweight. And then even like Minnesota with what Max did, which we'll talk about when we get to that way. I think Ohio State, Jesse Mendez is the only returning champ next year with multiple titles. So there's a lot of fan bases that have things to be excited about.
Yeah, and look at 4-5-6 or 4-5 tied. Some people were down on Iowa. Some people were down on Minnesota and Eggum over the last few years. Like, is Eggum living up to the Minnesota standard? And look at him; he's 5th. Ohio State had all those injuries, and they had a bunch of 20s and 26 seeds, and they're 5th. They did an excellent job, including in some spots from guys you didn't expect. Seth Shoemate went on a terrific run. But yeah, I think all those teams deserve a shout out, and we really didn't even talk about Nebraska other than their raw numbers. But Brock Hardy was a 1, but can he get through that bracket? He wasn't a shoo-in for the final. Like most ones are like, oh yeah, next topic they'll make the finals. Mm-hmm. Brock Hardy really wasn't one of the. He would have to go through Alirez. He would have to go through Happel or Coderhant. Ridge had a matchup with Van Ness. Antrell Taylor would have to go through Meyer. And Chris Minto, forget about it. Nobody was thinking about him as a finalist or as a semifinalist. So Nebraska has had the ability for a few years now to put together a tournament that's like this. But they've had their highs and lows. This is they maxed out. They maxed out where sometimes in the past they have lost some nail biters and some blood round matches, and yeah, they deserve a lot of praise. So 1 through 5, man, I thought really did a great job.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, you want to go weight by weight?
Yeah, I was going to say too with Oklahoma State, and we can talk about this during it, but it's like, I was just talking to Bashada about it. It's so interesting, like what David Taylor did in his rookie coaching season is incredible. And there's so many different storylines that are going to come from this over the next couple of weeks, months, and so forth. It's like even, we were talking about like the portal and how I think after this season, Oklahoma State isn't going to have to offer that big of a paycheck to somebody to get a transfer, because it's like, look what we just did with Dean Hamidi. Look what we just did with Wyatt Hendrickson.
I think what I've been saying this for a long time, but Saturday night takes the cake. Friday night, Saturday night, you can do anything you want to do. You can win a big dual meet in January. You can win CKLV in December. You can win Midlands. You ball out on Friday night, You pull upsets on Saturday night. You get an interview with ESPN. The kids follow. The recruits follow. And I thought it was a good branding moment for Nebraska. I thought it was a good branding moment for Oklahoma State. And in saying that, um, you might be saying, "Well, Willie Hamidi's always been good, and Hendrickson's always been good," and but for David to get them over the hump, now half of you listening are going to say, "Well, it doesn't take that much. Those guys are really talented kids. They were 2 seeds. They were 3 seeds. Got them over the hump, man.
It didn't just get them over the hump. They did the unthinkable. They both took out back-to-back national champions in the semis and finals to do it. And I think that content, the interviews, everything coming out of this is going to be a great recruiting pitch for David Taylor and the Oklahoma State coaching staff. And I'm telling you what, if all of a sudden in 2 months somebody transfers to Oklahoma State, the first reaction should not be, oh, Oklahoma State offered them a bag. It's very similar to why kids want to transfer to Penn State. They see the success and they go, I want to go there. I think Oklahoma State and what David Taylor and the coaching staff just did was make them a contender in that category of attracting kids, both high school recruits and kids entering the portal with, wow, David Taylor got him over the hump. David Taylor helped them do the unthinkable. So 100%. I think
and in the beginning of the season, Oklahoma State was catching a lot of praise for their performance at CKLV, and the guys looked good, and people were saying David's doing a great job, and he certainly was. But I also said to you guys, there's a long time between now and then, and it takes a full year. And I also said to you guys, I promise you, David cannot wait to get his own guys in there. It's going to take a couple years, maybe 2 years, for David to get his own talent in there and to mold that clay from Jump Street. It's hard to mold a piece of clay in a year or two. It's hard to change tiger stripes. I think it's zebra stripes is actually the term.
I think it's a leopard doesn't change its spots.
A leopard doesn't change its spots. We're talking zoology here on Bashing the Brain. But what David did is impressive. I think now consider that he's only been working with this group for 5 minutes. Yeah. When he gets his own recruits in there and he gets his own DNA into these utterly green true freshmen and creates a culture and starts things from scratch or from a blank canvas, they're going to be dangerous.
Yeah, I think David deserves all the credit for, I mean, they were Big 12 champs. They had, I think, 6 All-Americans, 2 champs who did the unthinkable. Both of them, I mean, beating out returning national champions, I think is such a feat. And you tweeted, I mean, I've been rapid firing tweets off for the past 12 hours or since whenever NCAAs or the finals ended. And one I missed that you got out before me was Hodge pivot now. Like, David all of a sudden put one of his guys in the Hodge race like that.
Mm-hmm.
You talk about Wyatt Hendrickson all of a sudden, and I had said all season, if one of these guys went undefeated and won those weights, whether it was Parker, whether it was Wyatt, like, they deserved to be in the Hodge contention. And with what Wyatt did, I mean, I think there's a very strong shot that Wyatt Hendrickson would be the betting favorite right now.
Yeah. I mean, he has high bonus rate. His hit list is better than anybody's, with the exception of maybe Starachi beating Keckeisen twice. I mean, not with the exception. You could make an argument. So, yeah, I think it's difficult for me to say that Carter Starachi is a 5-time national champ.
Correct.
And never won the Hodge. But the fact of the matter is, by the criteria of the rule, he didn't have the most dominant season.
I know. That's why if they give it to Carter, I'm 100% okay with the 5-time champ getting it. I said the same thing about Yanni when he won his 4th. even though he lost to Gomez earlier in that year. I'm like, I get that it's not a career award. It's just crazy to think that the only guy who won 5 national championships in D1 wrestling would not have a Hodge. But I understand if you're giving it to the guy with the most impressive season, I mean, hard to argue why he did not have the most impressive season. But career
That's the Hodge. The team thing, too, just to go back to the team thing for a second, as soon as I'm able to catch my breath, the next really neat thing to do is crystal ball, which is probably going to be insane. But really to think about who loses what. The first thing, even before a crystal ball, the neat thing to do is to say who loses what. Penn State loses Starachi and Kirk. I can't even wait. Let's do it now. Bartlett, Kirk, Carter.
Starachi. I think it's just those 3.
Okay. Yeah. Now, not to get really off track, but did you see the news over the weekend, like during the tournament, was that Ono is in the student directory, like as a student?
Yeah. Listen, my take on that is that I don't think he's going to enroll right now to compete next year.
He's enrolled.
No,
he's enrolled.
I don't think he's going to enroll right now because he's going to compete in the fall. My understanding is it has more to do with access to facilities. He's been training there for a couple months. He doesn't have access to all the facilities as a member. Listen, Listen, I could be wrong. I don't think Ono competes at Penn State in the fall. I don't.
I do.
I don't think. Okay, so what's your?
And by the way, when I say I think, I legitimately think. I don't know, but I think he does.
Is Blaze redshirting and Ono's going to slide in at 41?
I don't know.
Listen, I understand if Ono's been there for a couple months and he wants to, and he's like, this is awesome, I want to do it. I don't know. I don't think that a guy who has never wrestled folk style a day in his life is going to go through the college season. It happens. Oklahoma State has a guy competing who never wrestled folk style. Like, I'm not saying it can't happen. I don't think because he enrolled as a student in March, it means he's going to compete in November.
Well, it means something.
He was supposed to go back to Japan in, I think, early April, somewhere around there. So if in May we're doing shows and he's still there, come May, I'll change my tune.
Listen, I'm not saying he is. I'm saying I think he will. That's all. So anyway, so Penn State's losing 3 seniors, 3 huge seniors, all guys that have made a final. But they do have Blaze coming in. They have Duke coming in. They have guys. Marisolas will be off red shirt. Nagao will be healthy again. So, long story short, we're not gonna solve.
That's another one with Ono is that you got Braden Davis, Aaron Nagao, Marcus Blaze all at those weights, and also there's already a log jam where Facundo transferred out. He's in the portal right now. I'm hearing Joe Seeley might be on his way out. Somebody asked me. I'm hearing Joe Seeley's going in the portal. I'm like, I haven't heard that one, but I mean, with the log jam they have, who knows? It's like. You got a lot of talent in that room right now.
Also, Zach Ryder. We didn't mention Zach Ryder.
I think he'll be at 84 next year.
Right. Well, I'm just listing, I don't want to solve lineups here. The moral of the story, what we're doing right now, what I'm trying to do right now is to just say, what do they have leaving? What do they have coming back? Are they going to be a factor? Penn State, yes, 100% will be a national title contender next year. Nebraska, will they be a podium threat next year? They lose Caleb Smith. Love it. So they lose a champ and a 7th. What do they have coming in?
Is that all they lose, right? Allred has a year left.
Yeah, everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah, McDaniel's a freshman. Silas has 1 more year. Lenny has 2 more years. Lenny has 2 more years.
Lenny has 1 more year.
Lenny has 1 more. Is he 3-time blood?
2-time. I don't think he blood round in 2023. Just last year and this year.
Look up what he did in 23. Um, so Nebraska will probably have Cale Lauritsen or Alan Kaler at 125 for place.
One and
Um,
1 and 2 in 2023.
1 and 2. 33 Van D is back, and he had a good tournament. 41, they have a returning finalist back. 49, they'll have to replace. And they do have some talent. They do have some guys that could go 49. Maybe Brock goes 49. As of now, he's not planning on going 49. But Casey Swiderski's in the portal. I don't know if that would be a possibility for them, but he would fit pretty well. And then the rest of the lineup's pretty good. They have Cade Ziola come in. He's kind of undersized. They have some interesting options. I think next year, I think the plan is for Silas and Lenny to go back up and slide in LJ Araju somewhere in there or Ty Ice. So Nebraska will be fine. Can they replicate this? I don't know, but they should be a contender for the podium. Maybe not second, but fighting for a spot, 3-4. Oklahoma State loses a ton. They lose. While their starter at 33 was Whitcraft, who didn't qualify. I think so. He graduates. 41 is Jameson. He's back, but a lot of people think he's going to move up. T. Travis, I believe, is done. 57 Fish is done. Amin is done. Hamidi is done. 84 Plot is done. 97 Serber is done. Heavyweight's done. They lose everything. And they have a lot of talent, but on the roster, and they have a lot of good freshmen coming in. But this is a totally refab. I mean, they have to totally overhaul the roster.
You know what? One crazy thing about Nebraska, and then we're gonna go. We gotta go weight by weight.
We will.
Brock Hardy, Nomad put out all the All-Americans based on graduating year, and Luke Liddell was the only. What
Brock
is
Hardy
that?
sweatshirt.
Is that
Brock Hardy?
Does it say wrestling is fun on the back?
He took your advice.
Yep.
Did you see it?
Yeah, wrestling is fun. That's awesome.
He took your advice and got some apparel.
Well, Brock Hardy, I mean, he's got wisdom because he's old. That's where I was going with that Nomad thing. Is he did a breakdown of all the All-Americans by graduating class. Luke Liddell, the only All-American from the class of 2024. Gable Steveson and Brock Hardy, class of 2018.
Yeah. Brock went on a more mission for 2 years and then redshirted. So Brock's been at it for a while, and still one more year to go. So Penn State's going to be great. Nebraska's going to be probably they'll be probably what they were this year, or close to it. Now, will they have the same team points? It's going to be hard to do because they pretty much maxed out. Oklahoma State totally got to revamp. Iowa, it sounds crazy when you lose guys like Teamer and Parko and Buchanan, but theoretically they could be better next year.
I think they will be better next year.
You got Drake coming back. You probably have Arnold PK had a great tournament, so now Arnold Ferrari is like a thing again, unless Gabe drops. I don't know. They will have to replace. They'll have to figure out something for 97.
Listen, we'll do shows all summer for what the.
Hey, what did you make of What did you make? Keeter said, "Wrestling is tough. I love this stuff."
He'll be
competing.
On
to football.
Yeah, I don't think he worded that. It got misconstrued. I think he clarified in an interview, like, I'm still wrestling. I just he took a year off from football to just focus on wrestling. He's not going to do that. He's gonna focus on football this year, and then he's going to wrestle again next year. But his eyes are turning from wrestling to football now. So I suspect we don't see him in the freestyle scene much this summer. I think he'll start getting ready for football and all that. And then I do think he'll wrestle next year. I think people kind of took that like, yeah, wrestling's fun. I'm going to go play football. But I think he just meant like, short term.
Yeah. So Iowa will still be in the thick of things for a podium spot. Minnesota loses a bunch. Askey, Salazar. Salazar didn't score a whole lot of points. And Gable, of course. Cornell loses Foca.
Willie, this is how I know, and this is why I love you're a wrestling nerd. Let's talk about that all summer.
Okay.
Let's talk about the 3 greatest days that we just had.
All right. Now, let's go weight by weight. 125.
Thank you.
125, Robinson over Spratley in and the next 2 weights, really, 25 and 33, it's like anybody's game and any given day at these 2 weights. And I think Lillidahl, I came into the tournament saying Lillidahl next topic. He's my pick for sure. And he loses a quarterfinal round to Seymour, who just, Luke was kind of all over him. We saw a lot of matches at 25 and 33 where one guy was all over the other guy, but there was no scores. And Lillidahl Seymour was one of them. Seymour was really slippery. And he gets the edge there in overtime, beats Lillidahl, and then gets beat by V-Rob 4-2 in the semis.
It's so crazy, too, that you said Lillidahl next topic heading into this tournament. But, I get it. I kind of said the same thing. But, earlier in the year, you kind of fought me on that because it's like this weight is so wide open. And even if you look at, like, when I was going through this bracket again, look at the scores from the quarters out. It's 2-2, 4-2, 4-1, 5-2, 6-4, 2-1, 4-2. They're all 1, 2, 3-point matches.
That is why I fought you. That's precisely why I fought you on
100%.
it. Because, and I was talking about this in 33 with Spencer, and I'm like, Spencer, help me wrap my brain around why these guys don't go out and seize it. Why don't they go out and seize it? They play patty cake. Every one of them. Every one of them sits around and like, I don't know. They wrestle like They wrestle like your grandpa's era of heavyweights, where it's a one exchange match. V-Rob and President Trump comes in the building, and we have like 10 periods of wrestling with one takedown. I was like, oh my God, they're probably regretting coming. Listen, shout out to Vince Robinson and Troy Spratley, but that final was brutal to watch.
Yeah, Jordan Burroughs put up a poll, like, why do you guys think it's so low scoring? And I kind of pivoted from that to talking to him about it, and it's like, even what doesn't make sense to me, and we'll kind of talk about it, I guess, more when we get to 49, but it's like, even look at Lovett. He puts up 10 points, he puts up 15 points, 12 points, 14 points, and then a 1-0 final.
Well, there again is a different situation.
No, I get it. Henson's very good, returning national champ, undefeated. Like, I get it. I'm just saying.
I don't mean that. There is a very big difference. There is a very big difference between V-Rob and Spratley, who did 0 to try to score. Early in that match, Ridge Lovett was very active and very aggressive against Henson. Lucas Bird was all over Drake. So that's a little different than V-Rob and Spratley. They took 0 risk.
No, I don't disagree with you. I think we didn't really talk about it, but ESPN comes out with the decision to do bookends for the match order with having, you have these 2 massive bouts with Carter going for number 5, Gable's last match. And, on one side, it ended up kind of working out because Carter got number 5. That was history. That built some excitement. And you had, obviously, the greatest finish in NCAA history. But it was a letdown after that Carter match where – and the Carter-Parker match was great. It wasn't that high-scoring a match either.
It was good.
But it was a great match. And then you had these kind of couple matches in a row, 25-33. And I think if you wrestled this tournament again at 25, I think the bracket looks completely different. I think the results look completely different.
Agree. That's why, yeah. I mean, and when I say Luke Lillidahl was next topic, I don't mean he was next topic champ. I mean, he was a next topic pick.
Yeah.
There's a difference between a pick and a lock, you know? And I wasn't taking anybody but Luke. But yeah, you wrestle this bracket and maybe even 33 with the exception of Bird. I mean, listen, Bird went 3-2 in round 1.
Yeah.
You know? But V-Rob gets it done. Your placers were Lillidahl third over Ramos. Van Treska beat Seymour, and Smith beat Poulin in the 7-8 match. You know, we didn't talk about it, but Richie Figs, you know, returning national champ, went 1-2. Same with the Liras. We'll get to that in a second. But the two national champs, DNP and
yeah,
pretty insane. And it was sort of heartbreaking for Jet Strickenberger, who's been about as good as anybody, and Dean Peterson. But they've been about as good as anybody. And
Rutgers having 0 All-Americans this year.
Lost in the blood round.
Rutgers having 0 All-Americans this year is crazy.
Because Jet cut his tail off to make 25, and I don't know, came up short. It's a little gutting, but yeah, Rutgers was 0 AAs. Peterson blood round.
Shawver blood round.
Shawver blood round. That whole bracket was crazy because, you know, he had to hit O'Reen. 133 was totally busted, and like they had one of those stat-driven things where it's like they had the most seeded upsets. They had the most returning All-Americans of any weight to not AA. 133 was sort of a mess. But ultimately, it was the 1 and 2 seeds making the finals, Bird and Ayala. Zan Fugget was about the biggest story in the bracket, him knocking off Bailey and then pinning McGonigal. And Zan ends up taking third behind Romney. In the finals, Bird over Ayala. And I thought Drake was a little too passive. Maybe it is Bird's really good defensively. But man, dude, how did Drake get out of some of those situations? It was insane. I was up with Real Woods and Spencer Lee watching it, and we were like, wow.
Yeah, you know, Iowa fans, some of the Looney Tune Iowa fans, because there's a lot of good ones, but some of the Looney Tunes were mad at me because I said Bird proved it wasn't a fluke because he beat him twice. And they're like, oh, he stalled. Listen, he beat Drake twice, and he shut down Drake's offense in both matches. And I think the entire match, up until maybe overtime, Bird was definitely the aggressor. And I kept waiting for Drake
100%.
I kept waiting for Drake to get to his offense, which he kind of started doing. Like overtime got pretty exciting. But I kept waiting for him to just go for it, which he's done so much throughout the year.
Yeah, and Drake's typically a shooter. So I mean, maybe not a shooter, but Drake is typically forward and offensive minded and offensively driven. So as opposed to like V-Rob and Spratley's final, I don't think it was so much of Drake being risk averse as it was Bird being really sound defensively.
Yeah.
And I thought Lucas was all over his legs. It's going to be interesting. Bird has another year, and from what I'm told, he's going to use it, and it's not going to be at Illinois.
So it's funny because I tweeted out a stat about all the returning champs, and so basically, Jesse Mendez is the only multiple-time NCAA champ returning to the field next year. Then you have one-time national champ seniors, Richie Figs, Lucas Bird, Caleb Henson, and Levi Haynes. And then you have one-time national champs with multiple years remaining: Vincent Robinson, Messenbrink, Antrell Taylor, and AJ Ferrari. And one of the biggest responses was Lucas Bird has eligibility. And at this point, all I do, I keep it simple. I go to WrestleStat and I look at what they say. And the breakdown for Lucas's career is 2020 was a red shirt. 2021, he wrestled, didn't count because of COVID. So 2022, he has his first freshman year. 2023, his sophomore year. 2024, medical red shirt. And then 2025, junior year. So he's got one more year left.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I didn't know it wasn't going to be at Illinois, but
now maybe that tune changes. Maybe that tune changes now that he got to the top and he has a really great coaching staff and he's a senior leader of a team that is young and talented. But 3 months ago, I was told that he probably wants to get in a grad program at a different school.
So that could be. I mean, it's Poeta's first champ, I believe, right?
Yes.
So they might. I mean, I don't know if. Listen, if he has to go to a different school for a grad program, then it's not about NIL at all. But I'm sure they're going to try to do all they can to keep him. You know.
Oh, sure. Yep. Do you know this? Earl told me this. Lucas Bird on day one of this tournament, Lucas Bird, he beat Hunter Leak, he beat Ryan Miller. That's 2 wins. According to Earl, that is more wins on the front side of the bracket than Lucas Bird had in his previous career. I guess he lost early the previous 2 times. And wrestled back pretty well.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't think WrestleStat has him sometimes.
WrestleStat doesn't put him in order, yeah.
But he's got, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. I mean, and especially when you have a returning national champ that's potentially transferring. I'm not sure what to do with that. And
by the way, speaking of Big Ten champs, we talked about a couple weeks ago, I think. Annual question I asked: how many Big Ten champs will win NCAAs? 4 Big Ten champs went on to win NCAAs. All 10 Big Ten champs placed top 4, with 6 out of the 10 of them in the finals, and 9 out of the 10 Big Ten champs placed top 3. Lillidahl third, Bird first, Hardy second, Lovett first, Kasich third, Messenbrink first, Levi third, Starachi first, Cardenas fourth, Gable second. Crazy.
So the only one that didn't place top 3 was Cardenas. So they all placed top 4.
Correct. And
That's
9 out of the
insane.
10 top 3. And Cardenas only lost to Big Ten. Well, no, he lost to Ferrari in the backside, but he lost to Big Ten on the front side. And even like some of these other ones, because if you look at the champs by conference, Big Ten had 7, Big 12 had 2, ACC had 1. So Big Ten absolutely dominated this year.
Yeah. 141.
Wait, hold on. I'm not done with 33.
Oh.
Hit
me.
Fugit, Wisconsin, incredible tournament. I thought he did awesome.
He was 4, lost to Romney. Davis was 5, beat McGonigal by fall in the 5th place match, and it was Van D over Knox in the 7th place match.
Yeah, and Van D, you talk about the performance that Nebraska put together. Van D loses first round, wrestles all the way back to earn All-American status. Talked about grit with the Penn State 17-1 on the backside. I think a guy like Van D, that's incredible. Fugit taking out Sear Bailey, the 3 seed, returning All-American 3-1 in overtime, and then pinning McGonigal. That 1-2 punch for the round of 16 and quarters was incredible.
Yeah. I tell you what, being in the back of the tunnels is tough, man. Some of the guys just absolutely devastated. I was talking to Nick Bouzakis. I said, Nick, excellent year, man. You proved a lot of people wrong. He had a phenomenal year. He had a good tournament. He just didn't get on the podium. And he's like heartbroken. He's like, Willie, I did everything right. I did everything right. I was totally disciplined, and I still came up short. It's really hard. And so, good luck to Nick next year, man. I'm proud of him. Evan Frost didn't get back on the podium. Shawver. It's tough for some of these guys.
Yeah, I
Kind
want
of
to.
hurt them.
We might have to do a follow-up show because I don't want to do it now, but we have to do a follow-up show with your crystal ball and your final, how it stacked up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I already started. I did some of that. We won't do it now, but I started doing some of that already.
You need to add a column next to 2024. Just add a column 2025, or send me the file and I'll do it. But like you have name, school, 2024 points, etc. I would just add a column next to 2024 and do 2025, and then you can compare.
Yeah.
Where you or sorry, not 2024. Yeah,
Actual.
2024 and then 2025, and you put your actual where they were.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, 141. We got the final four that we thought we were going to have. Hardy beats Happel 11-4. That's after Happel beat Coderhant in a dogfight, 2-1 overtime, brutal match. It sounds boring, but there were some interesting exchanges in there. Mendez beat Vombauer 17-5. Bartlett beat Composto, and then it was Mendez 2-1 and another dogfight match. And it was really good to see. One thing we didn't mention, how boring that boring stretch where it was like no takedowns, one takedown in 3 bouts plus overtimes. And then Brock Hardy comes out and boom, 6 points. And we're like, thank God there's points on the board somewhere. So that was good to see. But you knew it was not a lot of matches. Somebody scores 6 points in the first 30 seconds, ball game. Might as well mail in the rest of the 6.5 minutes, but not with Mendez. Mendez is a dog. And he came back with a vengeance. And
dude, that 5-0 deficit was the best thing that could have happened to Mendez.
5-0, yeah.
It was I think it was 5-0, then he got the escape, it was 5-1, something like that. That was the best thing that could have happened to him because he was forced. He couldn't wrestle a close match. You got to take chances right out of the gate because you're down by 5 and you have to get to your offense, and he got some momentum going. So it's like, man, that was – and Brock, I don't know how anybody on the planet cannot be a Brock Hardy fan. He just he lives by that mantra, like wrestling is fun, and he actually lives it out. Like he goes out there, he has fun. It was so awesome that they let it fly.
He's a really great technician. He's one of those guys. I mean, he's almost like a martial artist. I was telling Austin Summer that writes for Intermat, and like a lot of people drill these moves, like arm drags to a little low ankle. People drill them all the time. Nobody ever pulls a trigger on them. Brock does. I mean, he lets it fly,
And Brock let it fly the whole tournament. I mean, he opened up with a 12-3 major. Then he got a 19-3 tech. Then he pinned Frost. Then he beat Happel 11-4. And he scored 9 points against Mendes in the finals. Like
Happel 11-4, who he's always close with.
Yeah. So, Hardy... You talk about, Bouzakis, and I heard some other guys, that I talked to said similar things. Like, I did everything right. We heard it in some interviews. I mean, AJ Ferrari said it in his interview. Like, Hardy, looking like eyeball test, he did everything he could. In every match, he let it fly.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Mendez goes back-to-back, just an absolute warrior. Hardy, the runner-up, both guys are back. Third place was Bo Bartlett over Composto, who's now a 2-time AA. Congrats to – it's nice to see Penn get one on the podium in their hometown. Happel took 5th over Coderhant, both those guys seniors. Frost over Vombauer, both those guys sophomores. Let's talk a little bit of heartbreak. Tegan Jamison loses a Coderhant in the OT. Lemley loses a 1-pointer to Frost. Yeah.
We'll talk about it more, I suppose, when we get there, but I'm thinking about it, and I don't want to forget it. You mentioned heartbreak, and you mentioned. So here's how my brain works. You talked about Composto. I instantly thought about Jude Swisher, and it was bummed for him because he looked so good all year. I was bummed he didn't get on the podium, and that made me think of the fact that it was Tyler Kasich and Jude Swisher in the blood round, two former M2 kids, and the number you actually tweeted out, the head-to-heads that were so weird. Not weird in the sense of like just the backstory. Like
Yeah, let
Trumbull
me run through it. Just a really odd year. Like once in a while, you get some ironic matches, like two guys that were high school teammates, or like I don't know, two guys that used to train together, or a club. This year, we got like 100 of them. It really weird year. I guess it's more likely to happen in this era of an open portal, but we had Trumbull and Treffin, who were teammates until 3 months ago. We had Kennedy and Riggins, who were teammates last year. We had Fish versus Soldate in a winner-take-all, like a blood round match. Those guys were starters at 57 and 65 last year for Michigan State.
And weren't they? Hold on. I don't think Fish or Soldate ever All-American. So it was two former teammates wrestling the blood round. Their final year, only one is going to All-American.
One of them's is their last bout ever. You had Kasich and Swisher in the blood round, two former training partners at M2. You had Stout versus Stout, which was the first time that's ever happened in history. You had Jordan Williams and Sammy Alvarez in the blood round. Those guys were teammates at Oklahoma State last year. You had Waskin and Contreras that had a little bit of overlap at Blair on the same team. And you had AJ Ferrari wrestling Buchanan, and Buchanan works out with his brother Angelo.
The Jordan Williams, Sammy Alvarez one. So even more context that people don't know. Last year, Jordan Williams and Sammy Alvarez wrestled off for the Oklahoma State spot. Jordan Williams beats Alvarez. Alvarez ends up transferring out. Now this year, Jordan Williams and Sammy Alvarez wrestle in the blood round, and it's not Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma State. It's Little Rock versus Ryder.
Just bizarre year. It made for, really highly interesting.
By the way, this is where, like, I hate the side of the portal that you hate, like the poaching and the, where there's whatever. I don't want to get into it, but I love like the Trumbull Treppin stuff. I love. Here's a guy who, they wrestled off earlier in the year. Trumbull won. Treppin took the opportunity that he opened up at Lehigh and went and took advantage of that. And it's like, look at that. Like, it worked out for him. He wrestled awesome all year. Like, I love when it works out like that, where even like Bear Claw.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of the portal. The ugly side of the portal is like unsolicited money bags. The beauty of it is giving kids opportunities. They're stuck behind something like that.
And so 141, dude, I don't know about you, but it makes me feel old sometimes when it's like these little stats, like I think I've already mentioned it a couple of times, but like Mendez being the only returning multiple-time champ in the NCAA field next year. It's crazy because we've had so many guys for so long where it was like we went through a stretch where we had, what, 4-timers in like 5 years?
That's what I was going to say. We're a little spoiled. Multiple-timers don't grow on trees, but we've had them in spades recently.
We have
149. Henson beats Abbas and Jordan Williams to get to the semis. D'Amelio with a great tournament. He looked really great. Hold on. We didn't talk about one thing. 141. Andrew Alirez. I promise you that is not the real Andrew Alirez. That dude's hurting, banged up, gonna have surgery. I was up there with Real, and I said, Real, when you wrestled him in the finals, that dude was yoked. That dude was slapped together. I said, I don't know if you've seen him on the floor. I don't know if you can tell it from up here. But he is like noodle arm, like there's no definition to him. And apparently the word is like he's really hurting. And so I was guilty of it too, saying, he didn't wrestle a tough schedule. They kind of hit him a little bit. He didn't wrestle the toughest matches. And we all thought maybe it was sort of a pitch count. It was designed to insulate them and get them a high seed. And maybe a little bit of it was, but I owe a little bit of apology because that dude's hurting.
Well, let's be fair and call a spade a spade. Every year this happens where we're calling it like we see it. And there's times we know that things are going on because of backdoor conversations, and there's other times where you just don't know. And every year at NCAAs, you hear these interviews. I actually have a torn ACL. I was actually in a coma for 2 days last month. All of a sudden, these stories come out, and it's like, we'll talk more about Shapiro in a minute, but it's like all these stories come out, and it's like, well, that makes sense. Well, that makes sense. And that's why you can't jump to conclusions, of course.
Yeah.
But every time somebody doesn't look right or every time somebody doesn't perform, it's also very hard to say he must be battling an injury.
Yeah.
Like, we don't hear these stories. We don't. And I get in a combat sport why they don't run out and say this is what I'm dealing with. I actually thought it was funny after Pac-12's Flo did an interview with Ferrari, and they asked him, I can't remember about I forgot the whole gist of it, but long story short, they asked him which elbow was hurt. And he laughed. He's like, I can't tell you that. It wasn't like just trying to get information out of him. It was just, how the conversation was flowing. But we so don't hear that. And then the end of the season, it's always like, yeah, I dealt with this. I dealt with that. I dealt with this. And it's like, it's very hard to know that stuff on the surface, especially the times you don't hear anything about it.
Yep. So I just wanted to throw that in there.
Well, I'm actually glad you brought Alira's up because I was literally about to pivot back to 41 when you started reading 49. Because another thing that was so crazy, I think it was just on our group chat. I don't know if it was a conversation that made it to the podcast. But after Nick Costco says that Anthony Knox could be the next four-timer. And Bashada was like, I so disagree with that. Not that Knox can't do it, but the likelihood of it happening is so crazy to assume that. And I understand what Don's, his point is like, go win one, and then let's have the conversation of who's a potential four-timer. And Alira's was, so only 2 returning champs picked up an additional title last night. 9 fell to the field. So Mendez and Starachi added title 2 and 5. Richie Figgs, Andrew Aliras, Caleb Henson, Levi Haynes, Keegan O'Toole, Parker Keckheisen, AJ Ferrari, Greg Kirkfleet, and Gable Stevenson. 9 returning champs did not add another title last night. And
that's insane.
Could you imagine the odds if I were to tell you those 9 people, Figgs, Aliras, Henson, Haynes, O'Toole, Keckheisen, Ferrari, Kirkfleet, Stevenson, parlay those 9 and say not one of them wins a title this year?
And 2 of them didn't place.
That's why Adam Terrapelli's a big I see him in the conversation. Like when people talk about four-timer this, four-timer that. It's like just how rare it is and how hard it is to do. Like you just said it. We've been spoiled by these four-timers, and that's why I wanted to bring this up. It's like 9 returning champs fell to the field this weekend. And therein lies how just hard it is to do.
Yeah, it's insane. And that's why I always say when I do big boards, when I comment on big boards, it's like I don't assume any of these guys are national champs. I assume that they're going to have good careers and they're going to All-American. You can't assume national title type stuff. Like I had Dustin Plott number 2, and he had a great career. He didn't leave anybody down. He made a final. He AA'd 3 times. That's the kind of career I expect out of a top 10 big boarder. I don't go in thinking if you're a top 10 on the big boarder, you're automatically national champ.
Yeah, it's crazy. Plott was a 4-time All-American.
4-time?
Yeah. 6th, 2nd, 4th. Awesome career.
Oh, but he wrestled in 5.
Yeah, he got 4 and 5. His first year.
Yeah, he got 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Because the one year he was walking wounded. He had like his elbow, his shoulder wasn't attached to his body. All right, 149. Dylan D'Amelio. Panero Johnson loses first round to Jack Joffrey, and then D'Amelio beats Joffrey. D'Amelio beats Styles. He looked really good. Styles beat Parco 8-0. Parco very, very obviously injured in that match. And then it was Henson over D'Amelio in the semi 6-2. In the bottom half, McNeil beats Alvarez, then loses to Van Ness. Webster beats Robuto, then loses to Love at 12-0. They wrestled 2 weeks ago. It was 2-0, and now it's 12-0. Can't really figure out. Ridge beats Van Ness 14-8. He got up pretty big early. And then Van Ness came back, had a takedown or two. And then in the final, it was Lovett over Henson. Henson takes neutral. And I thought Ridge was really good and really active early. He just couldn't chase Henson down, who's really solid defensively. And Henson got in on two really good shot attempts, one which was called a 3 and then overturned, and one that was at the buzzer. Just a heartbreaking loss for Henson. If you're a Ridge fan, or a Nebraska fan, or a Big Ten fan, you're probably applauding that Ridge finally got his. He's been so good for so long. He was the runner-up to Yanni a couple years ago, and then was the 1 seed last year. And so a really good perennial contender finally got his title. But if you're a Hokie fan, ACC fan from Georgia, you're probably questioning that overturning of the call. I don't know. What do you think about it?
I'm not a rules guy, Willie. Anytime I talk rules, it's like I listen to people like you that know the rules a little bit more in the calls.
I don't know what a takedown is anymore, though. That's the problem. I don't know what reaction time is. I was
just going to say, it's not that you don't know what a takedown is, it's you don't know what reaction time is. Because that seems to be the big... Everybody knows what a takedown is. Reaction time throws a wrench into it, I think.
Yeah, so I understand what they're saying, and I understand what they're looking at. I don't know what the right interpretation of it is anymore.
Yeah. Hey, on a different note, Parco, Alirez, these guys, it's a really interesting analysis that I want to do a show. We were talking about it in the suite. Guys that, number one, I want to do a show on guys who were rumored to have a big payday to transfer. And I also want to do guys who took a year off and guys who took time off and how that impacted them. And if you look at, it is still, Parco did not have a good tournament. He's injured, so it's kind of an outlier. But, even if you look at Alirez, who, again, might be hurt, but who knows the whole scope of it. But, Alirez took a year off with the red shirt, didn't repeat. Gable took a couple years off to do WWE and NFL, lost in the finals. This sport is very hard if you are not 100% committed and motivated. And when you start talking about years off for whatever, Olympic red shirt, outside venture, whatever, I was thinking about that even with the Brock Hardy.
You can go through a thorough review of that.
You review all these guys and whether it's NIL and guys who transferred and then how do they perform. Because more often than not, you hear a lot about this guy transferred, this guy's going to transfer, and there's a lot of talk up front about the money and NIL, and there's never really a conclusion, except for sometimes there's fans that Iowa paid X and they got this point, whatever. But I'd love to do a show that really kind of went through it all.
Yeah, let's do a breakdown of it, and it's all. Of course, you have the portal and the NIL era, which muddies the water, but then you have the free COVID year, which gives everybody an extra year. And so there's a lot of factors that go into it. So Ridge over Henson by the narrowest of margins. Van Ness came back and put up a fall and a major in his road back to third. Van Ness 15-4 over D'Amelio. McNeil 8-4 over Styles, who's just a freshman. A lot of freshmen All-Americans this year. I think there were 11.
Yeah.
Uh,
11 redshirt freshmen, 1 true freshman.
well, the Nebraska people were, I got to look this up. The Nebraska people were like, hey, Willie, stop saying McDaniel's a redshirt. And he's a true freshman. We had a true freshman All-American. And they're kind of right, but I forget what his gap year was. I don't know if McDaniel went. I can't recall.
What's
If McDaniel
WrestleStat has it as an EAP? What's EAP year?
EAP is Elite Accelerator Program. That means he's trained at the OTC for a year. What I don't know is, was that year his senior year of high school? Because if that year was his senior year of high school, then I consider him a redshirt freshman. If that year was his first year out of college, then he's kind of a redshirt.
In 2024, he competed in 3 tournaments. Was that part of the program? I'm assuming that's why he's not a true freshman, because he wrestled in 3 tournaments in 2024.
Yeah, but was that as a high schooler?
I don't know.
I forget if that OTC year was his senior year of high school or if it was after high school, a whole year after high school. So if it was a whole year after high school, I sort of consider him a redshirt. If that was his senior year of high school, yeah, okay, I'll call him a true. Anywho, Ethan Styles. True. How about not only did Nebraska have 2 freshman AAs in Minto and McDaniel, they also had Ethan Styles, who was on their team last year, AA for. I mean, I'm not giving Nebraska credit for Styles. Oregon State obviously gets credit for Styles. I'm just saying it's interesting. There's not a whole lot of freshmen that AA, and 3 of them were on Nebraska's roster last year. Alvarez, nice to see Sammy Alvarez get on the podium in 7th. He beat Gavin Drexler, one of the biggest surprises of the tournament. There were like, when
I just looked up Nomad's spreadsheet. He's got McDaniel in the class of 2023. Graduating class of 2023. So wouldn't redshirt freshman then make sense?
Yeah, he's a redshirt. Yeah.
Like Luke Liddell's the following year, 2024. He's a true freshman.
Right, he's a true freshman. Right. You're getting into semantics. But he did a year after. McDaniel did a year after high school. So it's his second year out.
Still an awesome accomplishment, by the way. I don't care if you're a true freshman or redshirt freshman. To AA your freshman year is incredible.
Especially at the weight with Ferrari, Buchanan, Cardenas. I mean, bar, right? All right, 157. This bracket got blown up. Both your 1 and your 1, your 2, and your 4 went down. Kasich gets beat by Blaze 5-4.
Hey, one thing I do got to give. UNC did not have the best tournament, but shout out Chenzo, Lachlan McNeil, All-American for UNC. Shout out those guys.
Yeah. Blaze beats Kasich. Shapiro loses to Taylor 7-2 I never saw that coming ever. Hippolito gets beat in the second round by 20 seed Trevor Chumbley. Chumbley then beats Caleb Fish, makes the semi. Fish beat Cannon 10-7 in overtime in the biggest throw of the tournament. That was incredible.
That was fun.
And then Blaze beats Chumbley.
Chumbley, by the way, like you would think maybe Chumbley and McDaniel too, who were both 20 seeds, were the lowest to AA. Wrong. Gavin Drexler of North Dakota and Donnell Washington, Indiana, both the 22 seeds, All-American.
Yep. There was something like 6 or 7 above 12. I did a list of the seeds above 12 that AA'd, and I will tell you what they are. I know 13 was Tyler Knox. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There were 8 above 13. Tyler Knox was a 13. D'Amelio was a 13. Zanfugit was a 14. Jacob Van D a 17. Chumley a 20. McDaniel a 20. Gavin Drexler a 22. Donnell Washington a 22.
I think you missed a couple.
Why? Who did I miss?
Cade DeVos was a 13. D'Amelio 13. Knox 13. Matt Singleton 14. Fugit 14. Novak 15. Vandy 17. And then McDaniel, Chumley 20. Washington and Drexler 22.
All right, I have to update that. So that's Singleton, DeVos, and somebody else.
Should be 11. By the way, you said that you did not see Antrell beating Shapiro 7-2.
Not in a million years. Not in a million years.
And so I agree with you. But it is funny how I was thinking like a couple things. One is maybe one of the biggest discrepancies from a 3-seed upsetting a 2-seed.
Yeah.
Because like that does not paint the full picture. But what I will say is going into this tournament, we had both heard Shapiro was in a coma a month ago and was told, hey, that's not true. He's fine. But there were also things saying like, no, that's true. Like he's going through something, which is very scary. So it's like going into this tournament, I had said that like Shapiro and Teamer throughout the year had both had issues with their health, with injuries. And it's like you didn't know what to expect. So not that I would have predicted Taylor to beat Shapiro, but with all the context of everything from the past couple of months and looking at the season, it does make more sense than it typically would.
Yes.
The hindsight context, knowing Shapiro was in a coma for 2 days and having seizures in mid-February, that does definitely add some color looking back at the results.
Sure. I just thought that. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of hard to be at your pinnacle when you were in a coma.
100%.
A couple months ago. That being said,
not a couple months ago, a month ago, like February 12th or February 13th, somewhere around there, which is a crazy testament to battling back. Like seizures and concussions and all that stuff is so scary. So above all else, like forget wrestling. I sincerely hope that every person around Shapiro is like, let's get you to be the healthiest person on the, that you can be. Yeah. And then wrestling comes second. So absolutely courageous to go from seizures in a coma to, and if you're wondering where this came from, he said all this in an interview with Flow Wrestling afterwards. So I'm glad he's okay because that stuff is scary.
He also said that Kasich's on steroids.
Well, yeah, he didn't say Kasich, but it was, I think it was after that match and it was all but implied. And he said, I don't know who's on steroids, who's not, wink, wink. So when you say wink, wink, you're definitely accusing somebody of being on steroids, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was like, hey, what did you think about... He didn't say Kasich's on steroids, but what he did say was, the question was, what did you talk about the match with Kasich? Well, I don't know if some kids are on steroids, wink, wink. Then who are you talking about? You're talking about Kasich. Anyway, yes, the first and foremost is I love Meyer, and I'm glad
he's a great kid.
I'm glad he's happy, and I'm glad he's healthy. He's not happy right now, as you can tell in the interview, and but he is a tremendous talent, and it's obviously he wasn't optimized, but at the same time, I thought he looked good against Antrell. He just didn't finish some of those sequences. Now maybe if he's optimized, maybe he finishes them. I don't know, but I don't think that Meyer wrestled bad at all against Antrell. Maybe it wasn't to his highest level, but I didn't think he wrestled bad. I thought Antrell wrestled pretty freaking good.
Antrell was the surprise of the tournament. Well, let me take that back. Wyatt, single match, biggest upset, biggest surprise, but like surprise wrestler of the tournament, like the whole bracket. I thought Antrell Taylor, I mean, crazy. Vince Robinson too, never a state champ. Now he's an NCAA champ. Crazy.
It's kind of weird though. Like, it's kind of weird. I know. I see that stat a lot about Vince Robinson, a 0-time state champ. Like, yeah, he was a 0-time state champ, but that dude could ball in high school. I mean, he was legit.
Hey Willie, quick note, just because I haven't touched on this, and we are transitioning to freestyle season. So interestingly, USA Wrestling back in 2022, post the Olympic year, which was 2021 because of the COVID scam, USA Wrestling qualified the top 3 from NCAAs to the World Team Trials. This year, post-Olympic, they are once again doing top 3 instead of the champ. So all three top guys at every weight are qualified for the World Team Trials. Will be super interesting. I started going down that bunny trail because I'm like, man, does Gable have a chip on his shoulder now? Which I cannot wait to talk about that. But
didn't Antrell lose in World Team Trials finals to both Kasich and Shapiro at one point? He definitely lost to one of them. I think he might have lost to both in back-to-back years. I don't know. That's a real. I mean, these guys got familiarity with each other. I thought Matty Bianchi had a really good year too, a really good tournament. I mean, he beat Downey, lost to Taylor by a point, wrestles all the way back, beats Tommy Askey. I mean, I just don't think. I know Bianchi won Pac-12s, but I don't think people had him on the podium as an 11 seed. That's pretty good.
No, he did great. I mean, there were definitely Teamer was kind of a surprise. You were high on him. I was not. I had said I don't know where he's at, and
yeah, that's the thing. You never know. And I fell on the sword. I just think he's an incredible talent. He's an incredible talent, and you're asking basically to pick on how injured he is, or how injured he isn't, or how healthy he can be, or how healthy he was, and motivation level. I don't know. I went with Teamer. I thought that I frankly think that he's vastly superior to some of these guys. A lot of the placers, I think he's vastly superior to. So I'll own it.
Yeah, it's tough. Again, we don't know. You know, I did think it was comical him going on a live stream and telling people not to worry about his 18 seed.
It was hilarious. All-time great.
Oh,
165. Man. Back to a little sanity. Mesenbrink over Caliendo. Caliendo beat Hall. So that's in the semis.
Willie, one more thing. We got to give Joey Blaze a little love. I mean, I don't... Yeah. Unless I missed it, like we talked about Taylor, but Joey Blaze as, a sophomore this year, true sophomore, I thought he wrestled a great tournament. I mean, to beat Kasich 5-4, to beat Askey in overtime.
I mean, listen, if you told me the final, I would have punched you right in the face. If you said Blaze beats Kasich and Taylor beats Shapiro, and your final is Taylor and Blaze, I would have said you're a freaking idiot.
A 3 versus 8, right?
Yeah. So major props, and you know how I said, and you gave an example too of guys. Not that you're rooting for them, but you like to see them. You like to see them get their shine. You like to see them experience success. I really like that. I'm really happy for Joey Blaze in the sense that everybody talks about his brother. Everybody talks about Marcus.
By the way, that's one match you didn't have in your kind of weird matches that I kind of had a note for, is that you had Joey Blaze upsetting Kasich where Marcus is committed.
Yeah.
So Joey Blaze takes out the number 1 seed from Penn State Friday morning, and his brother Marcus just committed to Penn State a couple months ago. So not as weird as some of those other matches, but
so again, I'm not saying I root for guys I wasn't rooting for Blaze over Kasich, but the fact that he wins, good for Joey, right? Good for Joey to get his due when he's very much second fiddle in terms of hype to his little brother.
Yeah.
So 165, you had the 1, 2, 3 seeds in the semis, and then you had the 12. Christopher Minto, who beat Julian Ramirez and Terrell Barraclaw. He beat the 5 and 4. How about 7 5 seeds didn't place? Is that bizarre?
That is.
Only 3 of 10. Only 3 of 10 5 seeds placed. But Minto, I mean, and he destroyed Julian, just ran through him. It was crazy. I never, if you would tell me that Christian Minto edged Julian Ramirez on a riding time point or a last second takedown, I say, okay, I could see that. Maybe I wouldn't pick it, but I could see it. But if you tell me Julian Ramirez, Chris Minto, like doubled through Julian and beat him 11-2, I have you committed, but that's what happened. And it's even, and then he beats Barraclaw on a last second takedown where he just went for broke and just kept coming hard. And one of the classic last second wow moments of an NCAA tournament. And the crazy thing about it is, I was at NHSCA's 2 years ago, and Minto could ride the tar out of you, and he was really good in like these scrambly situations, really funky. He lost in the finals, I believe. He took second or third. He lost in the semis or lost in the finals, and I thought he was really reluctant, really. He wasn't good on his feet. He wasn't good neutral. Well, I shouldn't say good. He didn't have a lot of attacks, right? He didn't score a lot on his feet. And I had him ranked 93 on the big board, and Nebraska signed him. And I thought he would be a good little project guy, maybe a good room guy. And, October comes, November comes, December comes, and he's still like in a platoon backup to Bubba Wilson. And by March, he's lighting people up on his feet. The transformation, I'm telling you, he was very limited in neutral in high school. I don't know where the offense is coming from on his feet, but he's putting up 11 on Minto, on Ramirez, 8 on Barraclaw. And you know what? Here's another thing about back in the hallways. I mean, look, really cool story. Minto beating a 4, beating a 5, Cinderella semifinalist, right? There ain't no way in hell he's beating Mesenbrink, right? But I'm back in the hallway, and Minto comes off the mat after wrestling Mesenbrink, and he is distraught. He is very upset. He's very sad. And I loved it. You know why? Because Minto wasn't saying to himself, I had a good run, but there's no way I can beat Mesenbrink. This dude literally thought he was going to beat Mitch Mesenbrink. And I think that says volumes.
You got to have that confidence. Yeah, look at Caliendo. Caliendo goes out there every time believing he can beat Mesenbrink. 3 times they wrestled this year, and I think especially the next 2. Mesenbrink teched him at the duel, but these next 2, like, you could tell Caliendo is making adjustments and going out there with the belief that he can win the match.
Dude, Spencer said that, like, Mesenbrink is wild and fast-paced and uber gas tank and high-volume shots. And Spencer said that they tried to emulate that by throwing him and DeSanto just going at Caliendo for 30 minutes. And Spencer's like, I'm telling you, Caliendo is good. And uh, he's just so amazing. I think, this was before the match. And he said, I think Mikey has a real shot. He has to wrestle him. According to Spencer, he said he has to wrestle. He has to wrestle Mesenbrink where Mikey is good and get out of any positions, wrestle where you want to be. And if not, pummel out, reset, refocus. But man, at this point, it's becoming heartbreaking for a guy as good as Caliendo to not get over the hump. I mean, he is fantastic.
Yeah. I also like Mesenbrink. There's a crowd of Mesenbrink for Hodge people, and I think they absolutely have a case for him. Mesenbrink went out and dominated all year long, and it's one of those situations where we have multiple guys who could legitimately win the Hodge, and sometimes it's out of the wrestler's hands. I don't think Mesenbrink could have done much different to say, make me higher up in your Hodge votes. I think when you have Wyatt taking out Kirk and Gable and going undefeated on the year, you have Carter Starachi going undefeated and starting and ending his season taking out the returning national champ Kekheisen. Like, it's one of those seasons where we've seen it before, where multiple guys have a legit case, and Mesenbrink is absolutely one of them.
Yeah.
Mesenbrink's one of those guys, it's so silly when it's like, I hate when I had this thought. When you watch a guy wrestle and you're like, I just don't know who I could see beating him. Mesenbrink is one of those guys. I'm not saying he's going to go undefeated the rest of his career, but you just look at him and you look at his dominance throughout the year, and it's like, man, he's good.
Yeah, but I thought that early in the tournament about Gable. I was like, this is the greatest dude I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, no, 100%. Again, there was a lot of people who didn't think Carr was going to beat Mesenbrink last year.
Mesenbrink, I don't think knew there was riding time. Not that. I don't know. 170. Well, let's give these kids their props. Peyton Hall took third. Only loss was 14-10 to Caliendo. He beats Minto 13-5 in the 3-4 match. Refresh my memory. Hall have another year left?
Let's look it up.
Hall 13-5 over Minto for third.
No, he doesn't. That was his 5th year.
Was it?
Yep.
So this weight loses. Who do they lose? Out of placers, they lose Hall, Barraclaw, and Amin. They lose 3 of 5.
Speaking of Penn State and transfers and Facundo in the portal, I don't think he goes down to 57. I'm assuming he goes back to 65. You have any gut towards where you see maybe he goes? I mean, I was thinking like he's from Michigan, correct? I was thinking maybe he could go back there, but with the Montanonas, it's like I don't know. I'm so curious where he ends up going. I talked to him during the weekend and told him to come on the show and talk about the transfer when he knows where he wants to go. So
it's interesting. A couple years ago, I would have said Michigan would be a good spot for him. I would have said Nebraska, but now Nebraska has a returning national champ at 57 and a 4th placer with 3 years of eligibility left at 65. And I say Nebraska because the Donahoe connection. Paul Donahoe is a national champ for Nebraska and is really, really tight with Mark Manning. And so there's a connection there. I don't know. Does he reunite with David at Oklahoma State?
I was thinking about that, and I mean, the writing's on the wall there with reuniting with Dave. My only thing is if D. Lockett is going to be at 65 next year, you know.
Yep. Iowa has Caliendo. Who knows? So there's not a real clear picture there. I hope he goes somewhere, gets in the starting lineup, and makes a podium because I love that kid.
Yeah, he's awesome.
174. Keegan O'Toole survives against Lorenzo Norman, is down by 2 takedowns in the 3rd period, and just cool, calm, and collected. zero body language that said he was worried, and somehow he gets it. He wins 10-8. And here's another, like, you know how you say you're always looking for little nuggets, little stats, little trends, and they go through the brackets. I mean, one thing that I would like to do is like have a so close but so far away list. Like, remember like last year, Jared Sima damn near beat. Jared Sima had like a 5 or 6-0 lead on Shane Griffith. Griffith comes back, beats him, and goes on and does great, and Sima does an All-American. Same thing this year. Norman has O'Toole dead to rights, third period late.
Mm-hmm.
O'Toole wins. Norman doesn't even AA. And so there's a lot of situations like that. I mean, think about Dean Peterson beats the returning national champion in Richie Figs and does an AA.
I know, it's crazy.
So it's so close, but so far away. O'Toole then majors Wolak, who beat Karchla the first round. Carson Karchla going 0-2, returning All-American, loses. A really tough draw. Actually, now that I think about it, Karchla went 0-2. I was going to say losing to 2 All-Americans, but he didn't. His opening round was against returning All-American Lenny Wolak. He lost that 4-2. Then he dropped down to Pinto and lost to him. So 0-2 for Ohio State's Carson Karchla. Harkins beat Pinto. Harkins, who needed a wild card, beat the Big Ten runner-up Lenny Pinto. So the 8 and 9 seeds both lose up top at 74. Simon Ruiz drops his quarter to Cade Devos. Here's another guy like Minto. Minto beat the 4-5, so did Cade Devos. Devos beats Thompson of Ohio and Ruiz, the 5 from Cornell. And then O'Toole 7-6 over Devos in that semi. Down below, Kennedy beats Incontrera, who had majored him previously, and then beats Casella. So Kennedy 11 beats the 6, and then he loses 8-6 to Hamidi. Haynes, pretty easy road to Hamidi, and then Hamidi the 4-2 winner, setting up a O'Toole Hamidi final, and Hamidi gets the job done.
Man, Hamidi looked so good. He just was happy for him. You know, it's one of those kids that, like, he dominates all year, and then last year he kind of just, I don't want to say fell apart, but here's a guy who's a 2-time All-American and then just did not have a great tournament last year. And then all year he's been absolutely dominating guys, and the conversation was largely like, well, you know, he's got 2, and I contributed to this, like, he's got 2 returning national champs. It's going to be a tall task for him. It sucks that, you know, for Oklahoma State fans especially, that you got Hamidi, Plott, and Hendrickson all behind 2 returning national champs. And here David Taylor helped him get over the hump and just, I mean, yeah.
You know, it's crazy. Hamidi wrestled 65 last year, moves up to 74, and he looked enormous at 74. Yeah. I thought he looked big. I thought Joey Blaze looked big as hell. That dude is long.
I thought Matt Ramos looked big for a 25-pounder.
Yeah.
You know, Patrick Kennedy got on the podium here, I think, is pretty awesome.
I went up to him. I said, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. He was all beat up, blistered up, his eyes bloodshot.
You know what's funny?
I'm really proud of PK, and I'm really proud of Ben Keeter. I mean, the Hawkeye fans and fans in general were pretty brutal on those guys.
Did you hear what Drake Ayala said?
No.
So Drake Ayala in an interview was like, listen, I love you Hawkeye fans, but you guys got to chill. Like, these are, I think he was talking about fans kind of being nasty about Parco and Teamer. And Drake went to bat for them. He's like, listen, some of you fans are crazy, and, like, these are humans too, and they're good dudes. And you're out here, like, talking this talk, and, you know, it's like sometimes you got to just chill.
Adam Fellers. Hey, look at this, my new screensaver. Me and Fellers.
I like that.
National anthem. Yeah, dude, I get it. Like, Iowa fans are awesome, and they're crazy, and they say what's on their mind. I don't necessarily blame them for, in some regards, but PK and Ben took a lot of heat on the message boards from Hawkeye fans, and I'm over the moon that they got on the podium and shut some people up because PK's my guy. Okay, other placers at 174. Haynes comes back, beats Ruiz and Majors Kennedy in a 3-4. Ruiz takes 5th, beats Devos. Singleton with a nice tournament, taking 7th, beating Wask. Singleton beat Bronigal, Casella, Wolak, all on his way back. It's a good tournament for him. How about some heartbreak here? Pinta, once again, blood round 2 years in a row. Yeah, that's about it.
You know what's kind of crazy?
And Contreras beat Thompson, the 4 seed. So Garrett Thompson has had 2 really, really great seasons, and come up short at NCAA so far.
You know how you know there's a sign that the COVID years are starting to be behind us? The 4 champions in the upper weights, 74, 84, 97, 285, all graduate. Hamidi, Carter, Buchanan, Wyatt. The 4 upper weights all graduate.
Wait, hold on. I think 1, 2. All of the finalists except for Barr.
Oh, even a step further. Yeah, you're right. So 7 out of the 8 upper weight finalists graduate.
Yep. 184, the first to ever do the damn thing. Carter Starachi gets his 5th. He went Tech, Major over Jackson Smith, 9-3 over Dustin Plott. Plott beat Silas Allred. Allred beat Berge, returning All-American in the 2nd round. Down below, Max Mickinelli makes the quarters. Foca makes the quarters after beating Gabe Arnold. And then Mickinelli beats Foca 10-7. I thought Foca looked fantastic. I'm not going to say I owe an apology, but I said coming into the tournament, it's really hard to evaluate or assess or know what you're going to get out of Cornell. They just had a really weird schedule this year where it's tough to identify how good they are and how good they are at this time. And I thought Chris Foca looked fantastic. There's no shame in losing to Max Mickinelli, who looks like the next big thing.
Dude, Max, spoiler alert, I've been texting and DMing with not just some of the champs, but guys who I think have incredible stories, and I want to get them on the podcast over the next month. Max is one of them. This kid, I am just so impressed by him, and it's not hard to tell why. This kid is an absolute dog. And when you have so last year, he wrestled a lot of 12 matches last year, undefeated. This year, he goes 25-2. So he's 37-2. And his only losses are overtime losses to a 5-time champ and a 1-time champ, and Carter and Parker. That's it. And this kid is, he's fun to watch. 184 next year with Mickinelli, Ferrari, Rocco Welch back, Zach Ryder probably in the lineup. This weight is going to be amazing. You go from the changing the guard where you have Carter and Parker and the vets, and Parker trying to stop history, go for number 2 on his way out. Plott, Carter, and now you have all these young guns coming in.
Yeah. A lot of times we say, and Max wasn't the biggest superstar in high school. He wasn't Bo Bassett, Marcus Blaze, Meyer Shapiro type hype. Um, he played football. He didn't. Now he did win Fargo. He did win a spot on the Cadet World team, and he was well known. But I think everybody had optimism in Max McAnally. I don't think they had this in mind. Like, this dude's great. He wrestles hard. He wrestles with skill, and he wrestles with assertiveness. I mean, he goes. He tries to score. And the only people that could stop him were like creme de la creme veterans.
And it took him in overtime to do it.
Yep. So he really could be the next big thing. Keckeisen beat Ruth.
By the way, speaking of Keckeisen, Doug Schwab, Coach of the Year, very well deserved. Qualifying all 10, the way that team has looked, performed, I mean, very well deserved Coach of the Year there for Doug Schwab.
Yep. He does great. He was texting me. He kept texting me about these cookies at Reading Terminal. He wanted these Heath Bar cookies. They bake them right there at the Reading Terminal. But
I was at Reading Terminal nonstop. It was right next door to my hotel.
That place is amazing. It's a goat. I love it.
Yeah, fun fact. I brought my son home a little snow globe, like yay big, about as big as you can carry on a flight. It says "Yo Philly" on it. It's got Rocky with his arms up. Awesome snow globe. So I bring it home to him yesterday. About 3 or 4 o'clock. I get home whenever in between rounds. And this kid does not put it down. Takes it to bed with him, carrying it everywhere. This morning, just decides to launch it. Launches it against the wall, breaks it.
No.
And didn't like chuck it, just threw it for whatever reason. Broke. And he's like, Dad, you got to fix it. You can't fix it. You broke a snow globe.
Yeah, Reading Terminal was awesome. So anyway, I got Doug some cookies, and then he was named Coach of the Year. So he got 2 prizes in one day.
I'm sure he likes the cookies more.
He loved the cookies. Backside, All Red beats Fishback in the blood round. Jackson Smith beats DJ Parker. Parker beat Gabe Arnold. I don't know how Fellers predicted this, but I'm sitting next to Fellers, and DJ Parker has a standing single, and Fellers goes, God, Gabe's going to get pinned. And I'm like, how do you know Gabe's going to get pinned? He's standing. Gabe dive rolls. Parker sticks him. Rare moment where Fellers knows what he's talking about.
Fellers is such a maniac to watch wrestling with. He's one of those guys that he loves the sport so much, and he's just yelling at everybody about everything. I like it. I like hearing it.
How about Wyoming? Wyoming got one on the podium and Joey Novak, and they also had freshman Eddie Nietenbach make the blood round where he lost to DJ Washington. Aiden Breno from North Dakota State was a breath of fresh air. He had a really solid year. He pinned Heller, beat Rogotsky, he beat Shane Cartagena-Walsh, and he lost in the blood round 2-0 to Chris Foca as a 23 seed. So North Dakota State had Drexler AA as a 22 and Breno blood round as a 23.
Yeah.
All Red over Smith 8-1 in the Concy quarters. Foca over Washington. McAnally beats Plott 6-5 for third. Foca over Smith for fifth. And All Red over Washington for seventh. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 graduate.
It's going to be such a fun turnover weight.
Yes, as will 97. Just an excellent weight. So much quality here, and so much quality that I said every step of the way, Josh Barr is going to have to prove it to me because there's so much established talent. I get that you're a great prospect, but in a way, if it was a different weight, I would have said, yeah, bar way high, way early. But this was loaded with senior level or senior
Veterans.
veterans. So Cardenas was your 1 seed. He beats Gabe Solers because the 8-9, just like at 174, the 8-9 at 197 both lost too. Gabe Solers beat Zach Bronigal, and Luke Serber got Patrick Brophy. Solers then beats Brophy, and Cardenas beats Solers 10-5. Michael Beard over Stephen Little 4-1. That's All-American versus All-American in round 2, and Beard takes it 4-1. Barg also gets an All-American. How about this? How about this little quad here? In this little quad, Trey Munoz and Cam McDaniel. Munoz wins 4-2. The winner gets Josh Barr. So you have an All-American against a freshman to get to another freshman. And so ultimately what came out of that is your national champ, an All-American from this year, and an All-American from last year. It's a tough little quad. Barr beats Beard 14-3. And Beard over Little, that's one of those weird ones, Bash, where Beard beats Little, but Little goes on to AA and Beard does not.
Yeah, Beard gets majored in the next round.
Well, that's not the surprising one. The surprising one is that Beard loses to Novak in the blood round, and Little goes on to beat Munoz and Shoemate and Max Stout. On the bottom side, Ferrari beats Andy Smith. Ferrari beats Max Stout 2-0, no takedowns. Shoemate. And this little quad here, first round, Brock Zerwoski beats 7-seed Wyatt Volker. Shoemate pins Salazar. So you have a 26-23 where a 7-10 is supposed to be. And then Shoemate beats Zerwoski. You got a 23 seed in the quarters. Buchanan looks great all the way through. 22-9 major in round 1. Tech fall in round 2 over Novak, who AA'd. Tech fall over Shoemate. 3-0 over Ferrari in a tight one. AJ, I don't know how you take the kid down. Nobody even sniffs a leg on the guy.
Yeah, I mean, AJ Ferrari, I'm so impressed. I'm impressed with a lot of these guys at 97. I'm impressed with Barr all season long. I've been super impressed with him, and I think he exceeded much of the expectation for him being a finalist his freshman year. Stephen Buchanan has been so tough all year. He's so impressive. Especially, Stephen Buchanan was so savvy in the finals match. I thought he did a great job. But AJ Ferrari, man, here's a guy who we talked about it all year. Not only do we not know where he's at, but you have a guy who won a national championship 4 years ago. And, you know, we've talked about how hard it is when these guys take a year off. You know, whether it's a red shirt and these guys who take, you know, Makai Lewis, Andrew Aliris. I think of these guys who took these Olympic red shirts and they don't get back to that same caliber of repeating as a champ often. Gable coming back after a couple of years, loses in the finals. AJ Ferrari, it's like taking that much time away and still placing third. He is so fundamentally sound. He's so hard to score on.
And he said it in interviews at Pac-12s that he's really focused a lot on riding, and his riding ability has gotten incredibly improved greatly. I mean, for all the flash he is hyping himself up and getting the crowd going and doing everything he does, he's flashy in his demeanor, but there's nothing flashy about his on the mat wrestling. He is meat and potatoes, grind it out, do work. He was in matches 2-0 over Maxed Out, no takedown. 3-0 Buchanan, no takedown match. 2-0 Cardenas, no takedown match. AJ Ferrari wrestled 3 matches in which there wasn't a takedown.
It's crazy.
Um, it's good to see Buchanan get a title. I mean, he's been so close for so long, and it was a great wait.
Yeah, I know you don't root for people, but I was rooting for Barr big time. But I was happy for Buchanan. You know, he's a guy who.
I obviously would have. I would have loved. Josh Barr is probably he's one of my favorite wrestlers. I would have loved to see Josh win. But on the flip side, like I said about Ridge, it's the guys that are knocking on the door for so long. It's nice to see them get their chip.
I did laugh at the commentators were great. Trent Hidley and Shane Sparks were awesome on the Mattcast. Trent his wrestling IQ is incredible. He's so like him and Shane were so good together because Shane is so like Shane's energy so high, whereas Trent's much more just level, but his wrestling IQ, I swear he was watching all 8 matches at the same time and anything anybody missed. And then I thought Cormier and Burroughs were absolutely fantastic. And I did have to laugh every now and then. There was like a fact or like a stat that I just thought was silly. And I'm like, is that really like the best thing? And they kept saying that Buchanan's the first person to All-American in 3 different programs. I'm like, is that like the best thing that it keeps going to different programs? I'm like, I guess it's an awesome stat. I'm like, it's just.
I would imagine. I didn't get to listen to Mattcast at all, but I would imagine Shane's energy and Trent's.
Oh, it's electric.
I'd imagine that's a perfect pairing.
I even had it when I was at the arena sometimes because you can't watch everything, so I had him on with an AirPod.
I said after watching Trent, listening to Trent at ACCs, I was astounded by his limited reps at it and how good he is already.
And one of the most, like, his wrestling IQ is incredible. I'll also give him so much credit for how unbiased he remains.
Right.
When he's calling it, and he's just like, he did the same thing to ACCs, which I got to imagine is probably interconference even more tough not to be biased. But yeah, Trent did absolutely awesome, man. His wrestling IQ is fantastic.
I don't know if you listened to the first day recap I did with Yanni, but
oh my God, his wrestling IQ too.
Yanni's
amazing.
So good to listen to too. Yeah, I mean Yanni. I know I talk a lot, but like with Yanni, I kind of want to shut up and just leave him go, leave him run.
I know, and Yanni's like one of those. I did listen to it; it was great. I thought there was going to be like a brain in the Greek moving forward because anything you ask Yanni, he gives you a full thought out, intelligent response that there's value in it. He doesn't give you any fluff.
Right. Yeah, there's real insight in everything he says. Placing matches. So Josh Barr, obviously, next year you gotta think top contenders, him and Ferrari, wherever Ferrari might be. And I think that for all the people that come down on AJ, and there's a lot of them, and sometimes I don't like the stuff. I myself don't like the stuff he does, but and have questions about him. I think he won some people over this year with he behaved. There was no incidents, and the fact that he wrestled back for third. And the fact that he respected a lot of his opponents.
His interviews I thought were great. You know, we mentioned it after Pac-12s that he's very funny because often wrestlers are so reserved and you don't know what they really think. AJ, whether he's trying to or not, just doesn't hold back. He gives you his thoughts and his feelings in real time. And as a wrestling fan, it's so awesome to just get somebody's thoughts, like him breaking down the rest of the bracket. And, you know, he said, like, his interviews were great with him saying, like, listen, I was too cocky. I was too prideful. I thought because I beat Buchanan twice, I was going to beat him easy. And I was humbled. And it's like, it's awesome to just hear the raw emotion and the raw thoughts from a guy.
Did you see the tweet though?
The what?
The one tweet was like, "I'm sorry, I put on a crap performance. But props to my opponents. They were really tough. But I'm still 2-1 against Buchanan.
I saw that. Yeah. Listen, let AJ be AJ. I don't care if you love AJ Ferrari or you hate him. Wrestling needs characters, and wrestling needs personalities. I think that's great.
So Buchanan graduates. So the champ graduates. The runner-up is back. The third place is back. The fourth place graduates. The fifth place is back. That's Novak. Sixth place is back. That's Little. Seventh place is back. That's Stout. Eighth place is back. That's McDaniel. So actually, not a lot. There's only 2 there that graduate. A lot back. I used to poo-poo for a long time. I poo-pooed on 97 how thin it was. It was like Jaden Cox, Morgan McIntosh, Kyle Snyder, and then a bunch of next, like, get out of here type guys. But it's been really deep for the last 2 or 3 seasons. 285.
Hey, how about real quick? Did you see what Trump just posted?
No, I didn't see it. Read the caption.
Well, this just says an honor to attend the wrestling championships. But you see the picture?
Yeah, Carter.
And look at, you'll like this one.
Yeah, I saw that. Caleb Smith, he's a goober. I'm going to miss him. 285, all chalk till late. Gable Stevenson beats Slavakuski. Gable Stevenson beats Schultz, who beat Luffman. Keeter beats Feldman 8-2. Owen Treffin beats Seth Nevels. And then he beats Keeter. And then Stevenson over Treffin 13-5. And Stevenson texts Colton Schultz, Majors Treffin. And I'm like, Stevenson's the best wrestler I've ever seen in my life. Hold that thought.
He closed as an 18-1 favorite. He was minus 1,800 heading into the finals.
Down below, Kirkfleet beats Gavin Hoffman 4-0, and then he beats Heinzelman 5-0, and somewhere along there, he obviously got dinged up. Brady Colbert, Army, the 22 seed, beat Jimmy Mullins before losing to Heinzelman. Trumbull, who I thought was going to be injured, I thought he was going to default out, man. But props to him. He did a great job. He beat Pitzer before losing to Hendrickson, and then Trumbull wrestled all the way back and took fourth. Hendrickson goes fall over Trumbull, and then 8-2 over Kirkfleet. Now, I'm not taking nothing away from Hendrickson. Who I don't think anybody was going to stop him this weekend, in retrospect. But Kirkfleet did look like he couldn't move.
Yeah, Kirk had an injury in practice last week, and
I was told it was an ACL.
I think it is.
So, Hendrickson beats Kirkfleet to set up a 1-2 matchup, him and Gable Stevenson, and Gable gets an early takedown, and it looks like, that's going to be that. But with about 30 seconds left, Wyatt takes a shot. He's extended. He had to do something. It wasn't the best shot in the world. He's stuck underneath Gable's hips, and this isn't 125. This isn't 149. He is stuck under 270 pounds of Gable Stevenson, finds an angle, pulls it through, cuts, gets the takedown, and then it's 5-4. And Gable kind of gets to his feet. Okay, Gable's going to get out, breaks him back down. Ball game. Everybody goes nuts. Wyatt Henderson did the unthinkable.
The unthinkable. What a moment. And everything Hollywood cannot have scripted a better finale. From Trump was supposed to leave after the 184-pound match. He said, I got to stay. Trump stays.
Apparently somewhere along the line, so Mark Wayne Mullen was on, I don't know, maybe Fox News, and they was talking about it and said that Trump was supposed to leave at some point, but he said that Wyatt Hendrickson made him a fan somewhere in the past previously, and so he had
don't remember.
and so he had to stay, and so that was a pretty neat angle.
But so you have Trump, and then you had even when Wyatt walks out with the flag, and it looked like Gable was jawing a little bit. Which, by the way, I don't think the flag had anything to do with Gable. We just saw this a couple of years ago. Patrick Glory draped the flag as he walked out. Wyatt serves in the military. I don't think this had anything to do with Gable.
Well, I don't even understand that argument. Flag? What would the flag have to do with Gable?
Gable was jawing him when he first walked out. Like, walked right over to him. Seems like Gable was saying something along the lines of, like, only Olympic champs do that, or something along those lines. So there was commentary, like some, about him walking out with the flag, versus typically you see a lot of wrestlers do that after a match, after Worlds, Olympics. But Wyatt walked out with the flag. I thought that was awesome. And just everything, man. You cannot script it better. And I just keep watching it. And this morning when I was watching it, it's so crazy, the juxtaposition of Gable winning the Olympics in the final seconds and then losing this one in the final seconds. Crazy to put those side by side in this sport. It's crazy. And I had said earlier in the year, I think there was one duel we were recapping where, if you remember it, Gable came off the mat and he wasn't too happy. I think he got a decision or a low major or something. He wasn't that happy. And we were talking
Feldman.
Yeah, after the Feldman one. And we were talking about like how Gable can be 60%, 70% of what he was when he won the Olympics and the Hodge and all this, and still beat all these guys. And Wyatt came out and said, not so fast. And, you know, I saw a couple of people who hold their nose when they jump in the pool saying, like, well, this isn't the same Gable. Who cares? Wyatt just did the unthinkable, and he stunned Gable Steveson, one of the biggest upsets in NCAA history. And Cormier and Burroughs on the call were absolutely electric. Electric. If you didn't watch the whole thing yet, go back and watch it. They crushed it.
I think it's safe to say now. I mean, there was a time where I didn't want to say it, but it was interesting to me. Wyatt walks off the mat, and you can clearly read his lips when he talks to Trump, and he says, "Thank you for everything you do." And then he immediately went. It was a short interaction with him and Trump, and then he immediately went to Mark Wayne Mullen and big high five and dapped him up. And if you're wondering the connection there, Mark Wayne Mullen's a senator and a pretty high-ranking senator from Oklahoma, and he was with. That's who Trump was with in Tulsa 2 years ago at the NCAAs. And Mark Wayne Mullen, remember the kerfuffle after NCAAs last year where it was like, hey, Wyatt wants to wrestle one more year. But the academies have this thing where you got to honor your commitment type thing, or you have to go directly into it.
Well, there's no COVID year. So if he wanted to use his COVID year, he couldn't have done that in the Air Force. They don't play any of that game.
Right. But you also have to, most people have to directly go into their next phase in the armed forces. Now, Wyatt got an exemption to pursue his wrestling career for a given period of time before he fulfills the rest of his commitment. Mark Wayne Mullen was critical in getting that to occur through channels in the U.S. military and in Congress.
Yeah, and Wyatt kind of clarified last night because there was a lot of questions on what he's going to do. So he's going to enter the WCAP program. He's going to train in Stillwater through 2028, the Olympics. Then after the Olympics in 2028, he's going to go fulfill his 5-year commitment that he has to do for the Air Force, but he still wants to make it a career. He's still saying he's going to go in the Air Force for 20 years. That's going to be his career. But I think right now he has to do – it's an initial 9-year commitment. It's Air Force Academy for 4 years and then 5 years of service. So that's still in the plan, but he's going to stick around Stillwater and train through the Olympics. So that'll be exciting. I tweeted it earlier that, I'm very curious if losing makes Gable stick around wrestling a little bit longer, because in my opinion, for the first time since 2019, he's going to have a chip on his shoulder. 2019 was the last time Gable Steveson lost a tournament. Now, granted, he didn't compete for a couple of years because of the WWE and NFL, but it's going to be so interesting if we see Gable and Wyatt both enter the Open or the World Team Trials, and I know Mason Paris is there, so it's not to say it's just going to be a Gable and Wyatt show. Like, Mason Paris is going to have a lot to say about who makes the World Team, and, it sounds like Kirk might be out for a bit, so I don't suspect Kirk will wrestle freestyle this year. But yeah, it's going to be awesome to see. I really hope this Gable and Wyatt turns into a rivalry.
Yeah, listen, I've always wanted Gable to stick with wrestling, and I don't know if this will have any impact on whether he does or not. I'm just always on that train. Gable, stay in wrestling.
Well, I think if he didn't lose, I think it's easier to close the door. I think it's a bit easier. You came back, you won your 3rd title, you probably won another Hodge, you've done all the whatever. Now he kind of has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, like, man, I want to get that one back from Wyatt. And if you want to get that one back from Wyatt, I don't think you're going to just wrestle at the Open or the World Team Trials. I think you'd go through at least one world title run, if not through 2028. But I could see him going MMA, but
yeah. Rounding out 285, Schultz, excellent tournament from him. Only lost to Gable. Takes 3rd, beats Trumbull there. Trumbull, who had beat his teammate Treffin in the Conci semis. Although Schultz did get a forfeit win over Kirkfleet. Treffin 5, Heinzelman over Keeter in the 7-8 match. Now, 6 of the 8 guys graduate. Massive, massive turnover. Stevenson leaves. Hendrickson leaves. Schultz leaves. Trumbull is back. Kirkfleet leaves. Heinzelman leaves. Keeter is back.
Yep.
A lot of turnover at heavy.
A lot of turnover. Yep.
What a tournament. What a week. I'm going to get cracking relatively shortly here on what the outlook looks like for next year. It is a very, very fun project for me because I learn as I'm doing it, right? I go into my spreadsheets and my crystal ball spreadsheets, and I take out all the seniors and I see who's left. And then I see guys coming off red shirts, and then maybe project a couple different guys that are in the portal, that'll go in the portal, that maybe the guys that'll change weights. And it becomes a real eye-opener for me. It's like, wow, the landscape at 41 looks like this, and the landscape at 57 looks like this. And it's one of the funnest things I do right after NCAAs because there's a lot of things you don't realize. You don't realize that this weight clears out as much. You don't realize that this kid's coming off red shirt. You don't realize that this guy is going from 41 to 49. And so, yeah, it's going to be fun.
You know what's crazy? I don't get into basketball at all, but wrestling is such a roller coaster. It's everything, even mentally trying to keep up with everything. If you just follow one school, it's not that bad. But if you follow everything or you're working or whatever, I can't believe how long like the basketball tournament goes on for. It's just nonstop. Like today's day 2 of the round of 32. It's crazy.
Yeah. Oh man, exhausting, isn't it? And now you take a deep breath and try to digest everything. And I'm going to update a couple of the facts and figures and numbers. Illinois had an excellent year in terms of AAs. Penn State, Pennsylvania, who usually they lead the country every single year. It's a rare occurrence when they don't. They had a really down year. Pennsylvania is usually in the 14, 15, even as high as 20 sometimes range. And I think they were single digits this year. So that's interesting. There's a whole heck of a lot of facts and trends and stuff to get to too, parse them out. And so look for that as well. But another excellent year. Best wrestling show on earth. Well, I think one of the best sporting events. And I really liked Philly this year, and I hope that it becomes part of the rotation. It was great. That arena is awesome. One thing they did do though, that they sold 3 extra rows of seats.
What do you mean?
That they weren't supposed to. Closest to the. They weren't supposed to sell 3 rows that they sold, and so it tightened the floor space.
Oh, because they ended up adding in the 3 rows?
Yeah, if they didn't sell those 3 rows and you took 8 to 10 feet and gave it to the floor, I wouldn't have had one single thing wrong with Philly. It would have been perfect. The arena was great. The size was great. The commute was great. The food, the bars were great. The suites were great.
Did you take the train every time to the arena?
I did.
I Ubered.
I Ubered one time, and it took the same amount of time as it would, because you're sitting in traffic, and they went way out of the way, and then they drop you outside the gate, so you have to walk, a quarter mile anyway. So just take the train. It's easy peasy. It's $2.50. I know it takes 20 minutes, but whatever.
Yeah, it was a great time. It's awesome to see everybody. It's awesome to connect with athletes, with friends, with coaches, with.
I feel bad. There's so many people that I got to meet a lot of people and have conversations with a lot of good people and people that I don't talk too much. And some VIP, some.
It's crazy to me how many people I didn't get to see.
That's what I was just going to say. But the downside is I get pulled in a million directions, and do I have fun, or do I work, or do I have fun? And I have to manage that thing. And this guy wants to see you, and that guy wants to see you, and I'm getting text messages. My point is, there's a ton of people that said, "Hey, stop by. I need to see you," and I didn't get a chance to do that.
No, it's more like happen chance. Like Burroughs is obviously a good friend of mine, and he ended up in our suite for like an hour. And we talk all the time, but I haven't seen him face to face in a while. So it's like you kind of embrace each other, you talk, and then you're talking. And Jordan might be one of the busiest individuals in that whole city. That he does the kickoff party Wednesday night. He's at Beat the Streets. He's commentating on ESPN. He's got all these different commitments. And, I think it had to be after the quarters when they do an extra round of consies maybe.
Yeah, for him to take the time to stop in our suite, that was awesome,
I love Jordan. He's
the best.
Yeah, it was fun. It's Cleveland. I'm already looking forward to it.
My nephew said, Willie, Uncle Willie, get me a shirt signed by DC. It's like, dude, I mean, DC was over there I was 10 feet away from, but I didn't have any time to go see DC, He's working. It's incredible on the floor and in the tunnels. All the hustle that's going on, and all
there's
the
like I want to say there was roughly like 85 or 90 suites at NCAAs.
There was, yeah.
And if you spend the whole time just bouncing from one to another, you'll see so many people. Mm-hmm. And I don't. The funny
Don Bashada got a picture. Literally, our suites here. Oh, you had left already. I don't even know if you know this. our suite's here. There's a railing. This suite, all Penn State people, like rich Penn State people, James Franklin.
The suite to the left, because wasn't the one to the right Lachlan McNeil's
The
family or
one to the
something?
right was Lachlan McNeil's family. The one to the left was all Penn State people, and on the final day, James Franklin was there.
My problem with watching the semis and the finals in the suite is it gets so busy and everybody's there. The first couple rounds, not everybody's in the suite. All of a sudden, everybody's there, and it just gets so hard to thoroughly watch everything. And crank out content, keep people updates, which I enjoy. I love that stuff. I'm doing stuff that probably like 6 people in total. Like on Baschamania.com, I was putting the PDF brackets after each round as soon as they came out, and I'm sure it's like 6 people that enjoy that. But I like doing that. Shout out Shannon from the NCAA. She was shooting me over the brackets as they were getting updated, and I'm uploading them and tweeting them out. I love doing that stuff. So
Shannon Scoville?
Yeah. She's great.
Yeah, she's freaking great. I actually got to meet her dad. I've known Shannon. I see Shannon at NCAAs every year, but the first time I got to meet her dad, she's awesome. She's really awesome.
She is. So she was shooting me the brackets, and I'm updating them. I'm doing these little things that, it's funny how many people actually consume wrestling content and, go out of their way, and they're like, there was a couple guys next to the craps table between sessions. We snuck over there, and guys walking up like, I love seeing you guys. I love all the shows you do. It's like, it's cool to see that in real time, because we just sit here talking to each other, and we record it and just put it out into ether and don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That to me, that never gets old. Like seeing a random human being coming up and say, "Hey, Willie, you don't know me, but I love the stuff you put out."
But to be honest, most of them don't start it off by saying, "Hey, you don't know me." Most will just say, "Willie, Bash," and then you're like, "Wait a minute, do I know you?" And they're like, "I just want to say I love the content."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always fun.
Yep, that's a good feeling for sure.
So what's next for you? You're going to NHSCAs. When's that, next week?
I leave Wednesday.
What a turnaround.
Virginia Beach, and I got 100 emails in my inbox that I haven't touched since, I don't know, Wednesday, that I got to get to update some seeds. So that's the next 2 things on my docket. Well, the next 3 things really is update NHSCA seeds, crystal ball for next year, and probably some little tidbits on other interesting data from this year's NCAAs.
It's gonna be fun. We're gonna do some more shows. It's so much easier to be consistent with our shows during the season, but we got to find creative ways to stay consistent. There's gonna be a lot of interviews probably coming up. Those are always fun, especially this time of year. Tweet at me who you guys want to come on. I already tweeted out, who do you guys want to see either on or back on the show, and there's a lot of great responses. I want to have Max on soon. I want to have Lilidol on soon. I'd love to have Gilman back on to talk about his first year coaching at Oklahoma State. So there's a lot of great conversations coming up to have on the podcast. I'm excited. And then we go right into the U.S. Open.
Yeah, baby. Vegas.
So, all right. Well, that concludes season whatever. and the next season starts tomorrow.
Giddy up.
All right, go Bills.
Go Bills.